Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you guys? सर इस साल का P2 IGCSE का आसान होगा क्योंकि फर्स्ट ईयर है नॉन but there is no such rule. I mean, I don't know why people think that just because there's a change in syllabus or just because something's happening for the first time it's going to be easy. Let's hope it is, but see that's how it has been. That's the paper that it has been for O levels for a very long time. In fact, ever since the beginning. तो इस बात की कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि आसान होगा या नहीं. लेट्स होप सो. सर इज इट जस्ट मी और देखो इंटीग्रेशन क्वेश्चंस कैन बी पेनफुली लेंथी. आई एग्री. They can be annoying, but if you have the concepts in order, trust me, you're going to be looking forward to those questions because there's nothing more straightforward than an area under the curve question. So if I were you, if I were a student, I would look forward to those questions. I would just make sure that I have my basics in order and everything else will just fall into place. Sir, इस topic के applications mensuration type questions are hard. Yes, they are. वो हमें मिलेंगे यहाँ पे. Practical maximum and minimum problems. That's where you will find them here. Okay, now this is going to be, so I'm inshallah going to cover this chapter in detail. So this is not going to be one of those a quick run through stream. Inshallah, this is going to continue. Hopefully इस week में ये पूरा हो जाएगा. ठीक है. So there are two parts of differentiation. One is the basic and the other is the more advanced, where we learn how to differentiate exponential functions, logarithmic functions, trigonometric functions. Okay, I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you guys? Thank you for asking. Sir, can we do questions where trigonometry is involved? Yeah, we'll do. Like I said, this is just the basics, basic part of differentiation. We will inshallah do more complex ones as time progresses. So I think in today's class, maybe we will be able to cover the first 5 parts. Let's see. I'm not going to set ourselves a target or something. Let's make sure that we do everything in detail and let's see how much we can cover. Yeah, after this, integration. All right, so let's start. Before I start, I would really appreciate if you guys can like the stream, and while you're at it, if you can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. I would really appreciate if you do that. And also, if you guys can share this with whoever you think is in need and whoever you basically think can possibly benefit from it. That's what I always say. So can we have a revision on ASP1 series and forces from M1? देखो M1 की streams मैं इंशाल्लाह करूँगा April में. M1 S1 inshallah I'll do in April. Okay, so let's start with the very basics. Now, before we start differentiation, what I always like to do is I like to go over a bit of theory because students just brainlessly know how to differentiate, but if you ask them, what exactly is the purpose of differentiation, they don't really have a good answer. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to learn the basics of differentiation, and alongside we're going to do a bit of theory. So the whole idea behind differentiation is to find gradient. Okay, the whole idea behind differentiation is to basically find rate of change of y over rate of change of x. बेटा थोड़ा जहमत कर लिया करो, टाइटल पढ़ लिया करो. लिखा हुआ होता है कि अच्छा उसमें नंबर सीक्वेंस लिखा हुआ है. ओके, ठीक है, वो मैं चेंज कर देता हूँ. डोंट वरी अबाउट दैट. बट दिस इज़ नॉट फॉर math students. Okay, so please read the title of the stream. This is not for math students. This is an add math stream. Okay, I'm just going to fix the title and then we'll start. Okay, so I appreciate whoever pointed that out. I appreciate it. Now let's start. So the whole idea behind differentiation is what? The whole idea behind differentiation is to find gradient, and not just gradient, but gradient of a curve. Now, why don't we use this for a straight line? We can use it for a straight line, but why don't we feel the need to use it for a straight line? The answer to that is very simple, because as far as the straight line is concerned, gradient is constant. Okay, you can pick any 2 points on the line, you'll get the same answer, and it's very easy to work it out. Okay, it's very easy to work it out as well. So the formula for gradient is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1, basically the rise over run. Okay, so this is the rise over run. Okay, so right now we're learning basically why we differentiate. So when it comes to a straight line, the gradient is constant. Okay, so when we're talking about a straight line, the gradient is constant. But when we're talking about a curve, okay, so what's the story with a curve? With a curve, the gradient keeps on changing, which is why, if you guys remember, we've recently done graphs of functions or graphical solutions of equations, same thing. How do you find out the gradient of a curve at any point? If at some point we're asked to find out the gradient of a curve at a point, what do? There's a standard way, and I'm talking about math right now. Okay, I'm talking about math right now. If let's say this is the curve and you're supposed to find out the gradient of the curve at x is equals to x1. So what we do is we draw a tangent. Okay, we draw a tangent. हम tangent बनाते हैं. Tangent का purpose क्या होता है? Tangent का purpose होता है to give us a zoomed in version of the curve at a specific point. And then what we do is we find out the gradient of the tangent, which basically is equal to the gradient of the curve at that value of x. Okay, so how do we find out the gradient? If let's say the question says, okay, find the gradient at x equals x1. So how do we do it? We do it in two steps. We draw a tangent at x equals to x1, and then step 2, we use the gradient formula. But the problem is, if you guys remember, the problem is that we don't get an accurate answer, which is why you will notice that you always have a range of acceptable answers. Okay, you will always have a range of acceptable answers. There's no fixed answer, you will always have a range of acceptable answers. Okay, it's not very efficient, it's not very accurate. That's the problem. Okay, now what we do is, we do this with the help of differentiation. Okay, now what we do is, we do the exact same thing, except that now we do it with the help of differentiation. Okay, so if we use differentiation, how to use differentiation? This is how we will use differentiation. So step 1 would be that we will find dy by dx. Acha, what's dy by dx? dy by dx is what we get when we differentiate the equation of the curve. Okay, so dy by dx is what we get by when we differentiate the equation of the curve. और इसको हम क्या कहते हैं? इसको हम बोलते हैं f prime of x as well. Then step 2 is that we plug in x equals x1 in dy by dx or f prime of x. Now when we do that, what do we get? We get the gradient of the curve. Okay, when we say gradient of the curve, what do we mean? We mean the gradient of the tangent. Okay, when we say gradient of the curve, that means the gradient of the tangent. Okay? Sir, can normal math students watch this stream? No, there is no point for normal math students to watch this stream. It's best that you guys, unless you have nothing better to do, even in that case, I wouldn't suggest that you guys should watch this stream. Okay, so this is maths. It's a total waste of time. Find something better to do. Study some other subject. I'm sure you have plenty of work to do. Okay, so when you plug in dy by dx, when you plug in x and dy by dx, what you get? Okay, जो भी आपका आंसर आता है वो क्या होता है? वो होता है आपका gradient of tangent. ठीक है? Now this is basically why we differentiate. Okay, so what we have just done is we have learned why we differentiate. Now the question that we're going to answer now is how to differentiate. Okay, so we need to first learn how to differentiate so that we can attempt questions. So let's do that. Let's learn how to differentiate. Achha, अब there are many types of functions that we need to learn how to differentiate. Okay, so we will start with, it's a total waste of time for non-AD math students. Okay, इससे बेहतर है कि आप मैथ पढ़ लें, unless आपने सारे past papers ख़त्म कर लिए हैं and you've exhausted all the material, then yes, otherwise you shouldn't. So power functions. Now what do I mean by power function? Power function is when you have a power on x. Like for example, let's say you're supposed to differentiate y is equals to 5x cubed. Okay, so how would you differentiate this? Here's how you would differentiate it. dy by dx is equal to 3 gets multiplied by 5. The power gets multiplied by the coefficient, so that's 15, and you take 1 away from the power. So this is equal to 15x squared. Now, if you've understood this, that's great. If you haven't, nothing to worry about. We'll do plenty of examples. If let's say you have y is equals to 6x power 4 and you're asked to differentiate this, how would you differentiate this? Dy by dx. Remember the procedure. Power gets multiplied by the coefficient of x. So 6 times 4, that's 24. Take 1 away from the power. So that's 24x cubed. Okay? Suppose you have y is equals to 4x. Now what's the power on x? The power on x is 1. How would you differentiate this? 1 gets multiplied by the coefficient. You take 1 away from the power. So it's 4x power 0. And what's 4x power 0? Anything power 0, in fact, is equal to 1. So that means the answer is 4. Okay, now what happens if you differentiate a constant? Let's say you have y is equals to 2. And I ask you to differentiate it. Tell me the answer while I'm writing down the general rule. ठीक है, so इस bracket में मैं general rule of differentiation क्या है मैं वो लिख रहा हूँ. You get 0. That is correct. So every time you differentiate a constant, what do you get? You get 0. Okay, so I'll write that down. First, let me write down the general rule. So this is the general rule. The general rule or the standard rule, whatever you want to call it. If you have y is equals to ax power n, then the way to differentiate this function, which is known as power function, is that n gets multiplied by the coefficient and you take 1 away from the power and this is what you get. ठीक है? अच्छा. साथ में आप एक standard rule और add कर लें, that if you have y is equals to a, then what would be the differential? The differential would be equal to 0. Now who can explain to me why that is? ठीक है, 0 है, बहुत अच्छी बात है, सही जवाब दिया आपने. But who can explain to me why it's equal to 0? As in, what's the logic behind it? Dy by dx, you guys are right, is equal to 0. Achha, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to write down a question which is slightly more complicated than the one that we have done so far. So it's 3 over root x. The indices rule applies. ठीक है, indices rule applies, I agree. Basically, if you're looking for an algebraic explanation, the answer is that the power on x is 0. Okay, 0 gets multiplied by 2 and everything else becomes irrelevant. Why? Because it's just going to be 0 altogether. But a more logical explanation would be, what kind of a line is y is equals to 2? If you think about it, what kind of a line is y is equal to 2? Achha, we're not going to use quotient rule over here. Okay, we're not going to use quotient rule over here. We're going to use something else. So what kind of a line is y is equals to 2? If you think about it, y is equals to 2 is a horizontal line. That's correct. Y is equals to 2 is a horizontal line. What's the gradient of a horizontal line? What is the gradient of a horizontal line? Y is equals to 2, ये रही आपकी line. ठीक है, now what's the gradient? The gradient is 0. And that is exactly what differentiation tells us. ठीक है, so differentiation भी हमें यही बात बता रही है कि इसका gradient 0 के बराबर है. ठीक है, एक उसके पीछे algebraic explanation है और एक उसके पीछे जो है वो logical explanation है. So it's a horizontal line, which means gradient 0, and even if you apply the rules of differentiation and differentiate the way that you would differentiate any other function, we get 0 again. Okay, so anyway, in order to differentiate this, there's no point in using quotient rule. Okay, so what I would do is I would prefer to write this as a power function, meaning I'm going to somehow take this and turn it into this. Okay, wo kaise? Here's how I will do it. Y is equals to 3, root x means x power half. Okay, and then if I shift this in the numerator, it's 3x power half. Now notice I haven't used differentiation over here. Okay, I haven't used a single rule of differentiation. What I've done is I've used indices. Okay, I've used indices to make it what? To make it something I like to call it differentiation ready. शायद आपने मेरी videos में देखा हो, I use these terms differentiation ready and integration ready. Differentiation ready basically means that you write it as a power function, so it can be differentiated easily. Okay, so that's what I like to call it. So now we can differentiate it. So I'm going to write it as dy by dx. Notice for as long as I did not differentiate, I kept writing it as y. But then isn't negative power bad? Well, it's bad if you leave it like that in the end, okay, but it's not bad. At some point you will have to deal with negative power. I mean, at some point you can't avoid it. So once again, same rules apply. Minus half gets multiplied by 3 upon 2, so you can do it directly. In fact, let's do it directly. That's what I would suggest. So minus half, and you multiply it by 3 upon 2, so that's minus 3 upon 2, x raised to the power minus half minus 1. Now you can use your calculator for this, but now you guys know there is a paper where you're not allowed to use a calculator, so I would suggest that you do this without using a calculator. You work it out mentally, and it's not that difficult. Minus half minus 1 is basically minus 1.5, the fractional value of which is minus 3 upon 2. Now you can leave it like this. Okay, so this dy by dx is good enough. Or if you want, you can write it as minus 3 over 2x raised to the power 3 upon 2. Okay, you can make the power positive as well. Nothing to worry about. Okay, so any questions? I hope not. Now, I'll take a few of your questions. Sir, will you start? Yeah, I will do integration as well. So my plan is to do differentiation, integration, inshallah, trigonometry, functions. So differentiation, integration, kinematics, and then trigonometry and functions. Okay, now let's move on. So this is how you differentiate power functions. Now let's see how to differentiate composite functions. Circular measure का पे ऑलरेडी काफ़ी कंटेंट है. Circular measure मैं अगर cover करूँगा भी, so I'll just do past paper questions because there's no point in covering concepts. Concepts are just formulas. So the rest of the chapters like logs, circular measure, linear law, for all that I will do past paper questions, not concepts from scratch like I'm doing for differentiation and like I will do inshallah for integration. Anyway, so composite functions. अब past paper questions करेंगे, बिल्कुल करेंगे. First let's get the hang of the concepts and then we'll do composite functions. But I've already streamed coordinate geometry of circles so many times, so I'm not going to do that. So suppose you have y is equals to x plus 2 the whole thing cubed. Okay, now you have to differentiate it. So how do we differentiate? First let's do a few examples and then I'll give you guys the standard rule. The power gets multiplied by the entire function, so 3 times x plus 2, and you take 1 away from the power, and then you multiply it by the differential of the expression that's inside the bracket, which is x plus 2, differential of which is 1, so that means it does not make a difference. So what's dy by dx? Here it is. 3 times x plus 2, the whole thing square. Now if you've gotten the hang of it, that's great. If you haven't, nothing to worry about. I'll do plenty of examples. Let's say you have 4 times 2x plus 3, the whole thing power 4. Okay, how will we differentiate it? Here's how we'll differentiate. First, we differentiate the power, meaning the power gets multiplied by the entire function. So 4 times 4, what's that? That's 16. Then you take 1 away from the power. So if I take 1 away from the power, that's 3. And then you multiply it by the differential of the expression inside the bracket, which is 2. Okay, so अब क्या बन गया ये? ये बन गया dy by dx is equals to 16 times 2, which is 32, 2x plus 3, the whole thing cube. Okay, now let me write down the general rule and then we'll do some more examples. So this is what the general rule looks like. So if let's say you have y is equals to p times ax plus b, the whole thing power n. So dy by dx will be equal to what? Dy by dx will be equal to n will be multiplied by p, ax plus b, take 1 away from the power and then multiply it by the differential of the expression that's inside the bracket, and there you go. Now let's simplify it further. So dy by dx is npa times ax plus b, the whole thing raised to the power n minus 1. Okay, will you do past paper? Yeah, I'll do past paper questions, of course I will, but I can't take you guys directly to past paper questions. So I'll do product rule, quotient rule, and then after that we'll do past paper questions. No, I don't think I'll be able to cover rates of change in today's stream. That's not possible because we have to do equation of tangent and equation of normal as well. Okay. So let's say you have y is equals to 3 times 2x minus 1, the whole thing power 4. Okay. Yeah, in fact, wait a minute. Let's do a slightly more complicated example. Let's say you have y is equals to 3 times square root of 2x minus 1. Okay, इसको differentiate करते हैं. So once again, I would prefer to write it in a way so that I can easily differentiate it, so that it's written like this: 2x minus 1, the whole thing power half. Okay, so this is how I've written it. Now I'm going to differentiate it. So dy by dx is equal to, half gets multiplied by the entire expression, so half into 3, that's going to be 3 upon 2, into 2x minus 1 raised to the power half minus 1. So what's half minus 1? That's minus 1 upon 2. And don't forget to also multiply it by the differential of the expression that's inside the bracket. That's 2. This 2 and this 2 cancel. So your final answer looks like this. dy by dx is equals to 3 times 2x minus 1, the whole thing raised to the power half, or 3 upon square root of 2x minus 1. Okay, it's up to you how you leave your answer. Normally, the question will specify as to how you should leave your answer. So make sure that you're reading the question carefully. Sir, कितने parts होंगे for differentiation? What do you mean, कितने parts? आज की class में I think I'm going to do it till equation of tangent and normal. Let's find out. Let's see how much time we have. Let's see how much energy we have. Just a minute. I'm going to turn on the AC. इस वीक में इंशाल्लाह डिफरेंशिएशन तो हो जाएगा, but I can't say anything about integration. Okay, now, so that was composite function. Now let's look at product rule, quotient rule, and then do some past paper questions. So here is product rule. अच्छा, कितनी वीडियोस में होगा? I think 3-4 parts. Let's see. So here's a question on product rule. Okay, it's a past paper question, and these are 5 easy marks. Okay, these are 5 easy marks. Now, how do we know that I have to use product rule over here? That's the question. How do I know that I have to use product rule over here? But it's not exactly leaked, but it's out. I've seen A-level papers. I haven't seen AdMath papers yet. A-level के तो मैंने देख लिया, AdMaths के इत्तेफाक नहीं देखे. Anyway, so how do I know that I have to use product rule? What happens is I can see 2 expressions being multiplied in such a way that I cannot simplify them and write them as a single fraction. Okay, like for example, if you have, let's say, x into x plus 1, can you use product rule? Well, you can, but you would have to be extremely silly to do that. Okay, so not recommended. Product rule not recommended. Okay, not that you'll get it wrong, but it's not recommended. If you use product rule here, not a good idea. Okay, even if let's say you have y is equals to x plus 2, the whole thing squared, even then I do not recommend that you use product rule. You can use it, but I do not recommend it. Okay, but if let's say you have something like this, you have y is equals to x minus 1 into square root of 3x plus 5. So in this case, it's best that you use product rule. Okay, so when do we use product rule? Product rule is used when 2 expressions are being multiplied, and they're being multiplied in such a way that you cannot simplify and write one expression. Okay, so just like here, it's not recommended that you use product rule. Why? Because you can expand and simplify. Here also you can expand and simplify, but here you cannot expand and simplify. Therefore, it's best that you use product rule over here. Okay? So this is how we decide when we have to use product rule and when not. Now, what exactly is product rule? This is what product rule is. When you have 2 functions that are being multiplied, and we call them UV. So whenever you have an expression like this, where 2 expressions are being multiplied, this is how you differentiate. V remains as it is, you take the differential of the first function. Plus U remains as it is, you take the differential of the second function. Okay, so this is the formula for product rule. This is the product rule formula. Okay, अब ये आपको याद करना पड़ेगा, ठीक है. ज़्यादा सुस्ती ना दिखाएगा कि फॉर्मूलाज नहीं याद हो रहे, ये नहीं हो रहे. कुछ चीज़ों का शॉर्टकट नहीं होता. यू हैव टू डू इट द लॉन्गर वे. सो डोंट वेस्ट टाइम लुकिंग फॉर शॉर्टकट, डोंट वेस्ट टाइम लुकिंग फॉर स्ट्रैटेजीज. व्हेन things are straightforward, there's no point in making complicated strategies. So what's u and what's v? U is equals to what? U is equals to 2x minus 1. Okay, that means what will be u prime? U prime basically means that we differentiate 2x minus 1. Okay, so this is u, this is v. Now what about v? V is square root of 4x plus 3, but we're going to write it as 4x plus 3 raised to the power half, so that we can differentiate it easily. So v prime would be half into 4x plus 3 raised to the power half minus 1, which is minus half, multiplied by the differential of 4x plus 3, which is equal to 4. Okay? अब आप थोड़ा simplify कर लें. 2 1s are, 2 2s are. So v prime is equals to 2 into 4x plus 3 raised to the power minus half. But I don't recommend that you write it like this. Why? Because if you see the expression, यहाँ पे इन्होंने 4x plus 3 का square root लिया हुआ है. Meaning that instead of writing it like this, I would prefer to write it as 2 upon square root of 4x plus 3. Okay, 2 upon square root of 4x plus 3. Okay, now differentiation khatam. Okay, so a lot of times students say that they're struggling with differentiation. What they're struggling with is not differentiation, they're struggling with algebra. So in majority of the differentiation question and even integration question, you'll notice that the part where you differentiate and the part where you integrate is probably like 20-30%. The rest of it is all algebraic manipulation. Okay, where you have to simplify, take common, take LCM and stuff like that. Okay. Now, the formula is VU prime plus UV prime. Okay, VU prime plus UV prime. That's what we're going to do. So VU prime का मतलब है 2 times 4x plus 3, although it's power half, but I would prefer that we write it as square root. 2 times square root of 4x plus 3. Okay. Plus uv prime. Uv prime means 2x minus 1 multiplied by 2 upon square root of 4x plus 3. अच्छा, अब आपने एक काम करना है. That is, keep your eyes on the prize. What do I mean by that? Keep your eyes on how you're supposed to give the final answer. Okay, now this is a very good question in the sense that you know for sure what the answer is. So the answer is right in front of you. You just have to use your algebraic manipulation skills to get there. ठीक है? अच्छा, अब ज़रा expansion शुरू करते हैं. ये multiply हो जाएगा इससे. So 2x minus 1, when you multiply it by 2, here's what you get. You have 2 times square root of 4x plus 3 plus 4x minus 2 upon square root of 4x plus 3. अब क्या करें? Keep your eyes on the prize and tell me what should I do next while I'm taking some questions. So what topic is differentiation a part of O levels? Oh my god. But it's not part of O levels. Please do some research. Okay, please do some research. It's part of AdMaths. It's not part of O level. Take common? No. I don't think there's anything to take common as yet. LCM. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's take the LCM. Okay, so what's the LCM going to be? The LCM is going to be square root of 4x plus 3. ठीक है, अब इसके नीचे क्या है? इसके नीचे 1. So I'm going to multiply this by square root of 4x plus 3. So what's 2 times square root of 4x plus 3 into square root of 4x plus 3? The square root and the square root will cancel, so you just have 4x plus 3. Okay? Plus 4x minus 2. So this is dy by dx. Remember, keep your eyes on the prize. And what's the prize? The prize is 4 times ax plus b. So this is something that we should have. In the end, we should be able to take 4 common. ठीक है, अब देखते हैं. Let's hope we get there. So 2 times 4x, that's 8x, plus 6, plus 4x minus 2, I think we're getting there, over square root of 4x plus 3. ठीक है, so I think we're almost there. 8x plus 4x is 12x, 6 minus 2 is 4. So टेक्नोलॉजी का फ़ायदा उठाते हैं, इसको डुप्लीकेट करते हैं. I'm afraid you guys can do that in the exam. So 8x plus 4x 12x हो जाएगा. So here it is, 12x. 6 minus 2 is 4. So 12x plus 4. And now what is it that we can take common? We can take 4 common. So we have 3x plus 1 over square root of 4x plus 3. ठीक है, अब ये 5 marks आपको ऐसे ही नहीं मिल जाने थे. You had to really earn these 5 marks, and there you go. Have we been able to successfully prove it and write it the way the question wanted? Yes, we have. That means we get these 5 easy marks. Yeah, A is equals to 3, B is equals to 1. Good job. Sir, how many you solve? How to get normal of a line using sine? May you solve? Okay, I will cover that. When we get to differentiation of trigonometric functions, I'll cover that. Okay, right now we're doing the basic part of differentiation. So when we get to trigonometric functions, I will cover that. So by the way, you guys will find some worksheets. Okay, you guys will find some worksheets in the link in description. Make sure to download those worksheets. I will be on and off taking questions from the worksheet as well. अच्छा, अब आते हैं किस पे? अब आते हैं quotient rule पे. ठीक है, quotient rule सुना है आप लोगों ने? When will be your next stream? Tomorrow I am streaming AS. Day after I am streaming, I don't know, just stay tuned on Instagram, you guys will find out. Probably continuation of differentiation. Quotient rule. Okay, now what does quotient rule look like? This is what quotient rule looks like. When you have y is equals to u upon v, okay, and in order to differentiate this, ab isko bhi if you cannot simplify and write as a single expression, we use quotient rule. Okay, so that would be equal to vu prime minus uv prime upon v square. So once again, this is the formula and you have to memorize this. Okay, this is the formula and you have to memorize this. What's this? This is the quotient rule formula. अच्छा, एक चीज़ मैं बता दूँ. I know a lot of people memorize this as uv prime plus vu prime. That's perfectly all right. Okay, there's nothing wrong. But it messes up your quotient rule formula. So it's best that you memorize this the way that I've written it, as in vu prime plus uv prime, and this will be vu prime minus uv prime. Why? Because here if you change the order, you get it wrong. There's a minus sign, so minus में अगर हम order change करें, we'll get it wrong. But if in plus sign you change the order, it does not make a difference. Okay, so memorize it the way that I've written it, and there is no other way. You have to memorize it. So don't look for shortcuts. ठीक है? Okay, now अब एक काम करते हैं. I have here a past paper question which we're going to solve. ठीक है? So just a minute, मैं ज़रा question खोल लूँ अपने पास. Anyone please tell me, is A-level maths possible without O-level add maths? It is possible, but having O-level add maths gives you a very strong edge. To answer your question, it is possible. Alright, so here's a differentiation question which we're going to solve. And remember, questions like these require a lot of patience. Don't rush into them. जल्दबाजी नहीं कीजिएगा. जल्दबाजी करेंगे तो answer गलत आएगा, and then you will start doubting your concepts. Okay, so a lot of times our answers are wrong, not because we are unaware of the concept, but because we make silly errors. So here it is. A curve is such that y is equals to ax square plus b. Show that dy by dx is equals to 2x times 2a plus b over x square minus 2, the whole thing square. Okay, now let's first decide what's going to be u and what's going to be v. So u is equals to ax square plus b, which means u prime will be equal to 2ax. That's it. Okay, what happens if you differentiate b? Since b is a constant, it's going to be 0. V is equals to what? V is equals to x square minus 2, which means v prime will be equal to 2x. Okay, what's the formula? It's vu prime minus uv prime upon v square. So dy by dx is equal to vu prime, which means x square minus 2 into 2ax minus uv prime, which means ax square plus b into 2x. Okay, so keep your eyes on the price. Upon v square, which means x square minus 2, the whole thing square. Okay, now let's start expanding. So x square multiplied by 2ax will give us 2ax cube. Minus 2 multiplied by 2ax, so that's going to be minus 4ax. Okay? It's best that you check as you go along. So where questions where you have a lot of working, it's best that you check as you go along rather than finishing the question and then checking it. Now, अब एक काम करें, अपनी ज़िंदगी आसान बनाएं और इस 2x को उठा के यहाँ पे लें. Okay, this way you'll know exactly how to treat the signs. Now minus 2x into ax square, that's going to be minus 2ax cube, and then minus 2x into b, so that's going to be minus 2bx. And don't forget, in the denominator, you have x square minus 2, the whole thing square. So this is your dy by dx. Okay? Now, let's see what we can simplify. So we can simplify this along with this. Okay, let's see what else we can simplify. So we have 4ax minus 2bx. Okay, what are we supposed to take common? We're supposed to take 2x common. Okay, so if I take 2x common, let's see what happens. If I take 2x common, here's what we get. We get minus 4ax minus 2bx, okay, over x square minus 2, the whole thing square. Keep your eyes on the price. We're supposed to take 2x common. Now let's take 2x common. If I take 2x common, notice what happens. We have, so we are supposed to show कि ये 2a plus b है. Interesting. 2a plus b, whereas we're getting negative. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see, कोई calculation error तो नहीं किया. X square minus 2, the whole thing square. Achha, there is a minus sign. Okay, you're right, there is a minus sign. Yeah. I didn't see this minus sign. Why मैं कहूँ ये minus sign तो होना चाहिए. Anyway, so we take the minus sign common. Yeah, we take I didn't see the minus sign. I think I need to get my eyes tested. Okay, so if I take the minus sign, we have 2a plus b over x square minus 2, the whole thing square. So what do we have? We have dy by dx. How did I miss the minus sign? Okay. Khair. Am I the only one who missed the minus sign? Sir, during a show question that can I equate both sides to show the answer? No, you can't do that. You can't do that in a show question. Okay, you have to just use one side and bring it equal to the other. Achha, let's do one more question of quotient rule and then we'll move on to some other question. So here it is. Here's another question of quotient rule. Let's solve this. Sir, is it possible to jump from a C to an A in AS Math? P1. If you're talking about C and mocks, yes, it's possible. I've seen people jump 2-3 grades, so that's possible. But in order to make that jump, you have to really put in the effort. Achha, wait a minute. Don't solve this. ये तो मैंने इसका product rule का question निकाल दिया. I was supposed to take a question of quotient rule. Here it is. So once again, a show question. Let me tell you how many marks this is. This is a 5-mark question. No, 4-mark question. So 4 easy marks. Okay, so it's a 4-mark question from the worksheet, 4 easy marks. Let's see what this says. So it says, given that y is equals to 2x over square root of x plus 2, show that dy by dx is equals to x plus 4 upon square root of x plus 2, the whole thing cubed. Alright, so let's solve this. So what's u is equals to? U is equals to x plus 4, which means u prime is simply equal to 1. What's v is equals to? V is equals to x plus 2, the whole thing raised to the power half. So v prime is equals to 1 upon 2 into x plus 2, the whole thing raised to the power half minus 1, which is minus half, multiplied by the differential of x plus 2, which is as good as 1. ठीक हो गया? Now, anything we can simplify? No. But I do suggest that you write this nicely and you write it as 1 upon 2 square root of x plus 2. Okay, so you have vu prime minus uv prime upon v square. So where can we get the... You can download the worksheet from the link in description. So differentiate bata dein without power. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So vu prime means x plus 2 times 1, so that's square root of, oh yeah, u is equals to 2x. U is equals to 2x. Which means, मैंने गलती से u यहाँ से ले लिया. Okay, yeah, I am taking the wrong equation. I fixed it now. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. So square root of x plus 2 times 2. Okay, so that's vu prime minus uv prime, which means 2x upon 2 times square root of x plus 2. Okay, so you have to be very neat and efficient with your working. Okay, so 2 and 2 cancel. What's next is that we will take the LCM. Okay, so how will I take the LCM? The LCM will be square root of x plus 2. Here we are. Now what is the denominator over here? It's 1, so that means I need to multiply this with square root of x plus 2. When I do that, square root of x plus 2 times square root of x plus 2 is simply x plus 2 minus, इसको किससे multiply करने की ज़रूरत है? किसी से multiply करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, so that's x. What happens next? Let's see. So we get 2x plus 4 minus x upon square root of x plus 2. Okay, so what's 2x minus x? That's x plus 4 over square root of x plus 2. Achha, don't forget that we were supposed to square it. Yeah, don't forget that you were supposed... Abhi, I'm going to do that part, okay? I'm going to do that part in a minute. Okay, so Abhi, I've just done vu prime upon uv prime divided by v square, which is equal to square root of x plus 2, the whole thing square. Okay, it's not the final answer yet, although I should have written it. But don't worry, I haven't forgotten. Divided by v square. Okay, now whenever it's divided by v square, I suggest that you write this separately. Okay, so what's the quotient rule? Formula bhi likh lete hain, u upon v. So dy by dx is equals to vu prime minus uv prime upon v square. So right now, we're just focusing on the numerator because the denominator is pretty straightforward. Now this is what you get as far as the numerator is concerned. Now what about the denominator? Now divide by v square means, and what happens when you take the square and the square root? They cancel out and you have divide by x plus 2. Then using rules of indices, if you change it to multiplication, what happens? You have to take the reciprocal of the fraction. Okay, and what's x plus 2 power half into x plus 2? You get, so what's the power here? The power here is half and then the power is 1. So it's basically x plus 2 power half, which you're multiplying by x plus 2 power 1. So half plus 1 kya ho jayega? Half plus 1 ho jayega aapka 3 upon 2. Using rules of indices, same bases are being multiplied, so powers are being added. I'll show the working over here. Half plus 1. So it's x plus 2 raised to the power 3 upon 2. Is this what we were supposed to show? Let's find out if this is what we were supposed to show. Keep your eyes on the prize. Although it's not written that way, but this is what we were supposed to show. So since the question has a specific requirement, we're going to write it that way as well. Okay, so x plus 4 over x plus 2, the whole thing cubed inside the square root. This is how the question wanted. And here it is, the whole thing cubed inside the square root. Now, hope it's clear. This is basically quotient rule. Okay, it's all algebra. It's all algebra. It's only 10-20% of it is differentiation. The rest of it is simply algebra. Okay, so we've done product rule, we've done quotient rule. Now let's focus on equation of tangent / equation of normal. Okay. Sir, why don't you teach further math? Because I don't know how to. I'm not very well versed with further math. That's why I don't teach it. Okay. So equation of tangent / normal. So I have my S1 mock tomorrow. Just finished watching all your videos. Any tips? Doing past papers right now? Yep, you're on the right track. Just do past papers, you'll be fine. Okay. Past papers is where the real learning takes place. Okay, which by the way reminds me that the past paper session, yearly past paper session for AdMaths, in fact for every subject, is starting from the first week of April. So you guys can join. It's a paid session. You guys can join directly from the website. You can register directly from the website. Okay, it's starting from the first week of April. Sir, please give some advice on my... Is it normal to struggle to do most of questions in yearly past papers at this time, even though I can finish it in half an hour earlier max? It depends how many questions you've solved, Iman. If you have solved... it depends how many past papers you've solved. If, let's say, you haven't done too many, like you've only solved 3, 4, 5 past papers, then it's okay to struggle. Okay, but if you've solved like 3, 4, if you've solved more than 5 past papers, I'm talking about years. Okay, if you've done like more than 3, 4 years, then it's still okay to struggle, but not to struggle with most of the questions. It's still okay to struggle with a few questions, but not most of them. Okay, so equation of tangent / normal. Now it's important to understand theory as well. ठीक है, सिर्फ फॉर्मूला से काम नहीं चलेगा, थोड़ा हमें थ्योरी को भी देखना पड़ेगा, समझना पड़ेगा. Now here's a curve, okay, and we have to find out the equation of the tangent and the equation of normal. Achha, by the way, what do we mean by normal? Normal basically means a perpendicular line. Okay, so when we say normal, normal means a perpendicular line. Normal basically means a perpendicular line. Perpendicular line. Okay, so nothing fancy. It's just a perpendicular line. Now, how do we find out the equation of normal? एक straight line की equation निकालने के लिए हमें क्या चाहिए होता है? Question for you guys. What are the ingredients that go into making the equation of a straight line? बताएं. कोई भी straight line हो, उसकी equation निकालने के लिए क्या चाहिए होगा हमें? So this, by the way, this green line that you're looking at is the tangent. Gradient, okay, that's great. We want the gradient. What else? Gradient and point. Okay, gradient at and point. Y equals to mx plus c, okay, that you're telling me the equation of a straight line, what it looks like, but we want the gradient and point. Okay, so the line that you see in green is the tangent line. The line that I'm drawing in red is the normal line. ठीक है, तो ये जो line आप red से बनी देख रहे हैं, ये normal है, and it's making a 90-degree angle. And let's say the point where you're supposed to do all this is x1. What's tangent? Tangent is basically a line which touches the curve at only one point. Okay, that's what a tangent is. Now, how do we find out the equation of a tangent? Remember the two key ingredients that you need? Okay, so there are two boxes that you have to check. One is the gradient box. Okay, and the other is the point box. Now, when we say point, we mean x1 and we mean y1. Okay. So step one. What's step one? Step one is that we find dy by dx. How do we find dy by dx? By differentiating the equation of the curve. You find dy by dx or f prime of x. Okay? What's dy by dx? dy by dx is a function which is in terms of x, and you can plug in any value of x and find out the gradient of the curve at that point. Okay, so dy by dx is going to be in terms of x, and in dy by dx you can plug in any value of x and find out the gradient of the curve at that point. So step two is that you plug in x equals x1, which is basically the x coordinate, in dy by dx, or f prime of x. Now when you do this, what happens? When you plug in the x coordinate into the equation of the curve, what do you get? You get the gradient of the tangent. Okay, what do you get? You get the gradient of the tangent. M we know is for gradient, T is for tangent. So what we can do now is we can check the gradient box. Okay, so what I did was I differentiated the equation of the curve. Okay, I plugged in x1 into the dy by dx, and now we have the gradient of tangent. Now the question is, how do we find out the y coordinate? Okay, remember we have the x coordinate, but I want the y coordinate as well. So how do I find out the y coordinate? Okay, so I have the x coordinate, I need to find out the y coordinate. That's step 3, by the way. How to find coordinates of the two turning points. We'll talk about that. Okay, we'll talk about that when we're doing coordinates of stationary point. Abhi, let's keep things simple. Let's focus on what we're doing right now. Equation of curve, what do you mean by that? Please elaborate. How do I find out? Plugging it into the equation. That's correct. So if I want to find out the corresponding y coordinate, because remember, you want the gradient and you want the point. When we say point, we want the x coordinate as well as the y coordinate. तो हमारा सिर्फ x1 से काम नहीं होगा, हमें y1 भी चाहिए. So what's step 2? Step 2 is that you plug in x equals to x1 in, where do you plug it in? In equation of the curve. In the equation of the curve. And when you do that, what happens? When you plug in x equals to x1 into the equation of the curve, you get y1. Okay? Ab, the fourth and the final step. Can't we take any 2 points from the line for x and y? You can do that, but you won't have the 2 points. The question is, in fact, 2 points दूर की बात, आपके पास तो ये diagram भी नहीं बना हुआ होगा. Okay? And I hope you guys know that this is advanced. This is not math. Okay? This is advanced. This is not math. Okay? I don't think you're an advanced student. So now the fourth and the final step, and what's that? That is that we form an equation using what? Using y minus y1 equals to m x minus x1. ठीक है, हमारे पास point भी आ गया. Now we can put this all together and make an equation. ठीक है, so long story short, here's how this works. If you want to find out the equation of tangent, okay, if you want to find out the equation of tangent, here's how you do it. You do y minus y1 is equals to m times t x minus x1. अच्छा, अब कोई मुझे ये बताया कि normal के लिए मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? Should I do this all over again, or you think there's just a small tweak that I have to make? What should I do for equation of normal? Question for you guys. What's the one change that I need to make if I'm finding the equation of normal? If you guys know coordinate geometry, this should not be a problem. Negative reciprocal of gradient. That's correct. Okay, so for normal, here's what we're going to do. Y minus y1 is equals to minus 1 upon the gradient of tangent into x minus x1. Okay, so make a small note. The note is that the gradient of tangent into the gradient of normal is equals to minus 1. Why? Because they are perpendicular. Therefore, the gradient of normal is equals to minus 1 upon gradient of tangent. Okay, so they are basically negative reciprocal of one another. Okay, so this is how you find out the equation of tangent and the equation of normal. Now let's do some past paper questions. Here it is, and this is a 7-mark question. So here are some examples, and let's start with this 7-mark question. Find the equation of tangent to the curve at the point where x is equals to 2. So we're given the equation of the curve, and we're supposed to find out the equation at the point x is equals to 2. Okay, now x is equals to, first of all, look at the equation of the curve. The equation of the curve is such that in order to differentiate it, we will have to use what? We'll have to use quotient rule. Okay, so it's a 7-mark question, and I would say that these are 7 easy marks. Easy marks. अच्छा, आप लोगों ने अभी तक एक चीज़ नोट करी कि अभी तक हमने कहीं पे भी कैलकुलेटर नहीं यूज़ किया. Okay, so we haven't used a calculator so far. Okay, so what does that tell you? That tells you that it's really not that difficult to do add maths without a calculator. And another thing that it tells us is that in majority, in basically the algebraic manipulation part, you don't need a calculator, which means those are the kind of questions you can expect in paper 1. Okay, so this is u prime. Let's find out v. V will be x square plus 5 raised to the power half, which means v prime will be equal to, let's write it over here, v prime will be equal to 1 upon 2 into x square plus 5 raised to the power half minus 1, which is minus half, multiplied by 2x. So this 2 and this 2 cancels. V prime is equals to x upon square root of x square plus 5. Okay, so what's quotient rule? Quotient rule is vu prime minus uv prime upon v square. Another thing it tells us that is that you have a big brain and our brains don't work. V prime not twice. What do you mean v prime not twice? I've just simplified it. Okay, I've just simplified it. Sir, you haven't posted a video for NCR and NPR. I did. I posted it recently only. In fact, मैंने कल ही शायद post किया. कल ही post किया. Okay, so dy by dx is equals to 2 times square root of x square plus 5 minus 2x minus 1 into x upon square root of x square plus 5. And do not forget that since this is quotient rule, अच्छा, I've written v prime twice. Oh, okay. ठीक है. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. And this is divided by v square, which means this is divided by x square plus 5 inside the square root, the whole thing squared. Okay? Yeah, because we're not supposed to simplify it. So you know what? I'm just going to write it here only. Because we don't have to simplify it, so I'm just going to write it over here. There you go. Achha, now, whenever you have to plug in a value of x, don't waste your time trying to simplify it. Okay? So just plug in the value. Don't worry about the simplification part. Okay? So let's plug in the value and see what do we get. So 2 square is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. So that means 2 times square root of 9. Minus, let's plug in the value of x here. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So minus 6. Let's double check. It's best that you check as you go along. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. ठीक है, सही है. And in the denominator, once again, 2 square is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. Divided by, so the square and the square root cancel out each other. And we have 2 square, which is 4. 4 plus 5 is equals to 9. Okay, so once again, notice that we still haven't used a calculator. So, and if you ask me, I would love to have a calculator over here, but do I really need it? No, not really. Okay, it's not absolutely necessary. I can very well do it without a calculator as well. So 2 times root 9 का मतलब है 2 times 3 minus 6 upon 3. तो हम ये साथ साथ नॉन कैलकुलेटर पेपर की प्रैक्टिस भी कर रहे हैं. Why is it 6? Okay. Here's why it's 6. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. ठीक है. So इसके पीछे क्या वर्किंग है मैं बता देता हूँ. 2 times 2 minus 1 times 2. So 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. Over 9. Now 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 2 upon 9. And what's that equal to? That's equal to 4 upon 9. So what's the step-by-step procedure? The step-by-step procedure is that you find dy by dx. We've done that. We find the gradient. We've also done that. Now we have the x coordinate and we want to find out the y coordinate. Okay, so how do I find out the y coordinate? I find out the y coordinate by plugging in the x coordinate into the equation of the curve. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. And then square root of 2 square, that's 4. 4 plus 1 is 4 plus 5 is 9. That means square root of 9. So y is equals to 3 upon 3, which is equal to 1. There you go. Okay. So we have all the information. The gradient is 4 upon 9. The point is 2 comma 1. What do we have to do? Just put it all together. So y minus 1 is equals to 4 upon 9 into x minus 2. And that's it. Unless the question does not have a specific requirement as to how you should give your final answer, this is acceptable. You don't have to go ahead and simplify it. This is acceptable as final answer. Okay, so ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप इसको simplify करें. Add maths में this is acceptable as final answer. No need to simplify. Okay, so मज़ा आया? How many marks? 7 marks. 7 easy marks. Is there any further math resources you would recommend? But I'm not well versed with further math to begin with, so I'm not the right person. It's best that you ask someone who is well versed with further math. Okay? So I hope that helps. Okay, I'll just give you guys a quick summary. Sir, can I learn trig values without being rationalized? Yeah, that's fine. You can always rationalize it later. So here's how this works. First of all, you find dy by dx. Okay, here it is, dy by dx. We plug in the x coordinate to find the gradient. This 4 upon 9 that you're looking at, what's this? This is basically the gradient of the tangent. ठीक हो गया? Now, एक equation निकालने के लिए हमें gradient चाहिए होता है और हमें point चाहिए होता है. Notice that we have the x coordinate, we want the y coordinate. So you plug in the x coordinate into the equation of the curve, you will have the corresponding y coordinate. Now you have enough information to find out the equation, and that's it. Form an equation, that's your answer. Okay, so let's do another question. Let's do a slightly more difficult one. Here it is. O level में differentiation, बेटा किसने बोला O level में differentiation है? आप वही लोग हैं जो instructions नहीं पढ़ते. Read the title बेटा. Read the title. Okay, now let's solve this question. Let's see what this is. The normal to the curve y is equals to x minus 2 times 3x plus 1 raised to the power 2 upon 3 at the point where x equals to 7 upon 3 meets the y-axis at the point P. Find the exact coordinates of the point P. So expect a follow-up question. Like the question can simply ask you for the equation of normal. The question can ask you for maybe something else to do with the equation of normal. Okay, so don't get confused. The questions will not always be so straightforward. Achha, by the way, even though we're going to try and avoid using a calculator in this question as well, but you guys should know how to use your calculator. Okay, so you know that you can differentiate using your calculator, and your calculator will give you the final answer. I hope you guys are aware. If not, then I'll show you how it works. Okay, now u is equals to x minus 2, u prime is equals to 1. V is equals to 3x plus 1 raised to the power 2 upon 3. Let's differentiate this. So that's going to be 2 upon 3 into 3x plus 1 raised to the power 2 upon 3 minus 1. So 2 upon 3 minus 1 is going to be minus 1 upon 3. You can do it on the side if you want, or you can just do it as you go along. Multiplied by 3. So this 3 and this 3 cancels. And v prime is equals to 2 upon 3x plus 1 cube root. Okay. So vu prime plus uv prime. Since this is product rule, it's going to be vu prime plus uv prime. Okay, so vu prime ka matlab 3x plus 1 into raised to the power 2 upon 3 plus uv prime means 2 times x minus 2 over cube root of 3x plus 1. Okay, and what's the value of x that will go into the function? It's 7 upon 3. Okay, this is the value of x that will go into the function. Now let's try and avoid using a calculator as much as we can, but I think we might have to use a calculator over here. ठीक है, but देखते हैं जितना कोशिश हो सकती है avoid करते हैं. ठीक है. So 3 times 7 upon 3. So that's going to be 3 times 7 is 21 3 और 3 cancel हो जाएगा basically. So we'll just be left with 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. So 8 raised to the power 2 upon 3. Okay, we'll work this out in the next step. I don't think we'll need a calculator, but let's see. Let's take it as we go along. Into 2 raised to the power 7 upon 3 minus 2. Okay, 7 upon 3 minus 2 over 3 times 7 upon 3. We just saw that's going to be 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. And in the denominator, we have to take the cube root of 8. Okay, so in the denominator, we're taking the cube root of 8. Now, 8 raised to the power 2 upon 3 means that we will take the square of a, which is 64, and then we'll take the cube root of it, which is 4. Okay? So 4 plus 2 times 7 is 14. So 14 upon 3 minus 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, divided by... या बल्कि एक काम करते हैं. I just realized that we can make our life easy. What's cube root of 8 equal to? That's equal to 2, so we can cross out this 2. Okay, we can cross out these 2 with one another, and what we're left with is 7 upon 3 minus 2, which we can work out on the side by taking the LCM. The LCM is going to be 3, so 7 times 3 minus 6. 7 minus 6 is 1, so 1 upon 3. Okay, so 4 plus 1 upon 3, and what's 4 plus 1 upon 3? We'll have to take the LCM. So the LCM is going to be 3, okay, times 3, so that's 12. 12 plus 1 is 13 upon 3. Okay, what do we have? We have dy by dx, and be careful, we're not supposed to find out the equation of tangent, we're supposed to find out the equation of normal. So अब ये तो आ गया हमारे पास gradient of tangent. Now who can tell me what will be the gradient of normal? This is the gradient of tangent. Who can tell me what will be the gradient of normal? Gradient of tangent is 13 upon 3. What about the gradient of normal? Minus 3 upon 13. Minus 3 upon 13. So take the negative reciprocal. That's going to be minus 3 upon 13. Okay. Now we have the gradient. We have the x coordinate. What we are missing is the y coordinate. Okay. What we're missing is the y coordinate. Now, how do we find out the y coordinate? Once again, let's try and not use a calculator to find out the y coordinate. वो कैसे? Let's plug in 7 upon 3 into the equation of the curve. So if I plug in 7 upon 3 into the equation of the curve, let's see what that... I think अब हम calculator use कर ही लें तो अच्छा है. यहाँ देखते हैं. 7 upon 3 minus 2 into 3 times 7 upon 3. So we already know what 3x plus 1 is. That's equal to 8. So 8 raised to the power 2 upon 3. So ये होगा y is equals to 1 upon 3 times, what's this equal to? This is equal to 4, so y is equals to 4 upon 3. Okay, so now we have enough information. It's minus 3 upon 13. That's the gradient of normal. What's the x coordinate? The x coordinate is 2, and what's the y coordinate? It's 4 upon 3. Okay, अब let's put this all together and finally form an equation. So y minus 4 upon 3 is equals to minus 3 upon 13 into x minus 2. But the story is not over yet. Okay, the story is not over yet. We need to find out the point where it meets the y-axis. Now, where it meets the y-axis means that the x-coordinate will be 0 and there will be some y value. Okay, I think अब हमें calculator की ज़रूरत पड़ ही जाएगी. So, देखते हैं. So, P is a point, 0 comma y. Let's plug in 0 in place of x. So, y minus 4 upon 3 is equals to minus 3 upon 13 into 0 minus 2, which is minus 2. Yeah, I think it's best that we use a calculator now. So minus 3 upon 13 into minus 2, that's minus 6 upon 13 plus 4 upon 3, and we get the y coordinate, which is equal to 70 upon 39. This is the y coordinate. Okay? Make sense? Yes or no? Let's see if there's anything else that we're missing. No. This is what the question wanted. We have done that. And that's it. That's the answer. Wrong? Are you sure about that? I don't think that's wrong. Tero, let me check. 3 upon 13 into 2 plus 4 upon 3. Okay, wait a minute. X coordinate is not 2. Sorry, the x coordinate is not 2. The x coordinate is 7 upon 3. Sorry, my bad. Yep, it's wrong. X coordinate किसने बोला 2 है? It's 7 upon 3. Where did 2 come from? Upside. So let's find out the y coordinate. Let's see what do we get. Yeah, I think I mixed it up with the last question. Anyway, so minus 3 upon 13 into minus 7 upon 3 plus 4 upon 3, which is 73 over 39. Now it's correct. 73 over 39. That's the correct answer. Okay, what's that? I have 10 A stars in O levels and 5 A's in AS level, but I have no social. I don't think that's worth it, but depends on what your priorities are. Okay. Anyway, so I think आज के लिए काफ़ी है. ठीक है. Here are the concepts that we have covered. So we've done 5 concepts today. I don't think we'll be able to cover the remaining 5 inshallah in next class. But let's inshallah aim for at least these 4. If not these 4, then maybe these 3. So ये हम करेंगे next part में. Okay, this we will do in part 2 and expect part 2 on Wednesday. ठीक है, Wednesday को inshallah इसका part 2 होगा. Okay, so we'll cover differentiation first and we will then do integration. So let me write down today's date. When we started, this was 17th. So 17th of March, 2025. So please release permutation combination in one day. I've done a whole playlist of permutation combination. I've covered the entire chapter from scratch. You'll find a playlist. Okay, you'll find a playlist of it. Anyway, so I'll stop here. Good luck those of you who have their exams tomorrow. And jate I would appreciate if you guys like the stream and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. ठीक है, देखो ये जो छोटे छोटे टॉपिक्स है ना, बायनॉमियल हो गया, लॉग्स हो गया, सर्कुलर मेजर हो गया, लिनियर लॉ हो गया, ये मैं करूँगा टुवर्ड्स द एंड. ओके, बिकॉज इसकी मैं सिर्फ पास पेपर स्ट्रीम करूँगा एंड दैट विल बी इनफ. ओके, यू रियली डोंट नीड द concept by concept stream of these chapters. We will learn the concepts from past paper questions. Okay, vectors, I've already done a few streams on vectors. Make sure to check them out. And I've covered the entire topic conceptually from scratch. See if that helps. If not, then towards the end, inshallah, I'll do a run through of past papers. Okay, so how is your Ramzan? It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good. Much better than last year. Alhamdulillah. Let's hope. Aadha to guzar gaya. Let's hope the second half is also equally good, if not better. So yeah, I will stop here. I'll see you guys. Why don't you give paper and get world top? I'll probably end up making a silly error. You guys think that it's only you? It's just you guys who have an issue of making silly errors. I have the same issue as well. But anyway, maybe if I were giving the exam, I would be more conscious. Because right now, if I make a silly error, I have the benefit that one of you will point out. So that's why I'm a little casual. But maybe if I'm giving the exam, I'd just be a little more serious. I teach now as well, and I'm really inspired by you. Thanks, Jenna. I appreciate it. Good luck. Are you married? Why is that relevant? Will we solve practical max and minimum problems on Wednesday? No, I don't think we will reach that because stationary maximum minimum point, it requires a lot of time. And then we have nature of stationary point and rates of change. So I don't think we'll be able to do that. But if not Wednesday, then Thursday for sure. Any comments on Pakistan cricket team? एक ही स्पोर्ट था जो हम लोग शौक से देखते थे. नाउ आई थिंक इट्स अ ब्लेसिंग इन डिस्गाइज कि उससे भी अब कोई उम्मीद नहीं रही, तो अब टाइम ज़ाया नहीं होता. Khair. Anyway, so I'll stop here. See you guys inshallah very soon in the next stream. Take care, everyone.